Werner Leonhardt さんです。Now, we'd like to invite our next speaker, Mr. Jork Werner Leonhardt. Mr. Jork Werner Leonhardt, the floor is yours.
Good morning, and thank you all for staying with me. I know it's lunchtime, so you're probably hungry. But before you head out for lunch, here's some food for thought, and hopefully sprinkled with some inspiration for dessert. But yeah, after I'm done, you're allowed to leave. I don't know how good the translation is. I always have I always get the thought that the faster the speaker is, the worse the translation gets. So I'll try to speak slowly, and if I go too fast, just wave me down. Okay, so I'll try to stick to my prep. Okay, so here we go. So when I first got involved in the Ethereum ecosystem, it was actually the ethos that captured me. So it's stuff like trustlessness, you know, that there are no intermediaries, that we have smart contracts that actually enforce rules, that the blockchain is open and unstoppable. Also that anybody could build, that you didn't have to ask anybody for permission, that what we built, the code is public, it's forkable, it's composable, and also that it's not a walled garden. It's more like, I don't know, a big box of Lego bricks, and that anybody can take out some of the bricks and put them together, whatever you like, and you can build new stuff from it. This is stuff that I liked. Also that in this ecosystem, there is no single party to control access or rules or the infrastructure, that the validators are spread out globally, that the technology is built to survive resistance from governments or corporations. What I really liked is that the early devs were not in for the money. They were here because they wanted to build something new, the next internet to be used by anybody, totally open and free. Ethereum is supposed to take no sides and to play no favorites. It's to be used by anybody. It could be a bank or just a DAO. It's a protocol that anybody can use to transact, interact, cooperate, and innovate. Banking the unbanked was a very strong narrative in the early beginning. I'm no OG. I only started full-time in the space in 2018, but I have seen some changes since then. Let's be honest, how many of us actually rely on centralized RPCs for everyday use? So we built an ecosystem that celebrates trustlessness, and then we quietly inserted a black box right in the middle. Doesn't this contradiction bother you? RPCs aren't evil. They're useful, but they reintroduce the very risk that we tried to remove. Single point of failure, censorship, data manipulation, opaque failure modes. If Ethereum is the operating system for a credible neutral internet, why are we outsourcing truth to third-party servers? Vitalik tried to invigorate us all to step up and make Ethereum a cypherpunk again, or in his own words, to make at least a part of the Ethereum ecosystem actually be the permissionless, decentralized, censorship-resistant, open-source ecosystem that we originally came to build. I won't be able to fix the ecosystem in a 20-minute talk today, but at least we'll explore one important building block for the ecosystem that we originally came to build. So you probably remember the part of the ethos that resonated with your innermost values. But what realities are we actually confronted with each day? We all keep seeing the same patterns. There are teams that preach decentralization, and then they ship products that depend entirely on centralized RPCs or data from index servers. We have wallets that ask an RPC, what's the balance? Or you have dApps that ask, did the transaction land? What's the receipt? What's the log? There are analytics, notifications, is final checks, and that's all offloaded to endpoints that we don't control. And then when it breaks, we say the blockchain is down, when actually we mean that our pipeline to it is broken. Here's the honest truth. For many users, RPC responses are the de facto blockchain. That's not evil, but it's just too fragile. It's a classic convenience trade-off, but it collides head-on with Ethereum's original promise. So naturally, what would you do? You'd explore the obvious temptation and just think whether it would be easy to make light clients even lighter, to make it possible for more use cases to just spin up a client. That helps, but it doesn't erase the core problem of continuous sync, network chatter, and it's still too heavy to run on constrained environments like mobile, embedded, browsers, or IoT. And it doesn't address the human reality. Devs still reach out for the easiest solution, an JSON RPC call, if there's no drop-in alternative. And guys, you know, that's just the truth. You probably do it yourself. Well, then we have to pivot our thinking. If we don't want to think smaller, we should prove smarter. What if the device doesn't hold history, doesn't gossip, and doesn't download the state of the whole entire world? What if it pulls cryptographic proofs on demand from any source, even an untrusted one, and verifies it locally? You can fetch data from a CDN, a friend's laptop, even a hostile server or random RPC provider, as long as you verify the proof yourself. That flips the model. The remote server is then just a dumb data courier. Truth comes from the math on your device. There are a couple of hard questions that we have to answer, though. How do we verify execution without a trusted full node? Or how do we establish consensus truth that a given block is actually valid without replaying long committee transitions? How do we make this run in the real world in a wallet, a browser tab, or a microcontroller? Well, these thoughts and the answers to that actually led us to Colibri with proof-based execution verification, succinct consensus verification, and a tiny embeddable core. What's at stake is more than convenience. It's about restoring user agency, making verify locally the default, not an exception. Imagine a world where every wallet, every dApp, every IoT device can say, we don't ask you to trust our backend, we ship proofs that you can check yourself. That's the world that we are building towards. That's why we built Colibri. So, Colibri in a one-liner. It is a stateless, proof-based, ultra-light client that runs anywhere, mobile, IoT, or browser, so wallets and apps never have to trust RPCs. So we ask you to don't trust, verify. Ethereum was originally designed so that your app would connect directly into the network of nodes. You can fetch your data directly from the chain, and by doing that, it would be decentralized, it would be trustless, there's no censorship involved, and you have full verification. This is the ideal world. That's what we actually think is going on, but then We have the reality. Most wallets and apps don't do that, but they go through a centralized RPC. And the RPC then becomes the bottleneck, one service to rule them all. However, if the RPC lies, if it censors, if it fails, your app is totally blind. What can we do about that? The way forward is not to get rid of RPCs, but to change the role. Instead of asking RPCs to be the source of truth, they become just data providers. Alongside them, you would add a proof provider. Your app then checks information plus proofs. The result, the whole thing becomes trustless again, and the verification happens on device. Or you could also put the prover locally on the device. Either way, the key is this: you're no longer trusting RPC responses, but you're verifying cryptographic proofs. So in the end, don't trust, verify. To run such a stateless client, you don't need to interact with a peer-to-peer network or to store the state of the chain. However, you need to talk to an RPC provider to fetch the blockchain data itself, and then you'd also need proofs of the execution and of the consensus layer. And in case of an L2, you would also need a roll-up proof. And these proofs would either be also provided by an RPC or by a standalone proof provider, or you could also create those proofs on your device itself. Colibri on your device would then verify those proofs locally. So the device, not the RPC, decides what is true and what is not. So to wrap this up, Colibri offers you an ultra-lightweight, stateless, trustless, proof-based multi-chain client that enables you to not trust, but verify. So why does it matter now? This is not a whiteboard fantasy. Colibri is already running where it needs to run. We're going operational on Ethereum mainnet and Gnosis with other EVM chains and L2s in scope. The pieces exist. The UX is ready. The gap, the verifiability gap, can finally be closed. Don't trust, verify. Now, zoom out with me. A world where every device, phones, browsers, hardware wallets, IoT devices, microcontrollers, or even AI agents, they're able to do the verification themselves. IoT, for example, would stop phoning home for permission. IoT checks cryptographically facts locally. Web applications become truly trustless, not because your backend is truly honest, but because users don't have to trust you anymore. Mobile devices, by the way, would never be able to run a client that needs to stay in sync. But with Colibri, you fetch data only on demand. This is the next step in decentralization. Not just decentralized consensus among validators, but decentralized verification among users. In that world, you can still run RPCs and indexers, but the role has changed. They become data providers and not arbiters of truth. If they lie, your device can detect it. If they censor, you fetch from somewhere else. If they go down, you're not stranded because proofs can come from anywhere. Colibri is not another server you have to trust. If the missing client layer that makes don't trust verify a default experience for wallets, for dApps, and devices. That's the future I want to live in, and hopefully that's also the future that you can live with. That's why we're building it. Okay, let's talk about some examples, what it would actually look like. Let's take, for example, a wallet. Today, the wallet would ask an RPC for balances and recent transactions. With Colibri, You request proofs along with the data, independent of their source. Your app verifies them locally. The user doesn't just see a balance, but a verified balance, derived from Merkle proofs tied to real block headers that you validated through consensus proofs. The UX might be the same, but the security model is not. You're no longer saying, trust my RPCs, bro, but trust the proofs that your device just checked. Or think about, here you go. Or think about last week's NPM incident. A malicious package slips into your pipeline, and suddenly your wallet's signing flow touches code you did not expect. With Colibri in the loop, you can simulate and verify a proof-backed state before the user signs, and most importantly, you can compare the signed transaction with the original before you publish the transaction to the mempool. If anything is off, if there's a difference in storage slot, if the allowance changed, or if the send address has changed, and that's what unfortunately happened last week, you don't publish the transaction anymore. So, don't trust, verify. DeFi front ends today mostly say, trust us. This is your APY, the TVL, your position value. With Colibri, a front-end can say, don't trust us, verify. The app ships proofs for position balances, receipts, events, and the user's device verifies them locally. This doesn't just protect users, it differentiates products. A verifiable UI outcompetes Trust Me UI. And the whole thing extends beyond phones or laptops. A smart lock could check on on-chain access list without an on-chain access list without trusting a gateway. A smart meter can verify a pricing update before acting. A machine can accept a payment or a key revocation only if the proof checks out on board. An AI agent can check balances, prices, and simulated outcomes before acting in your behalf or fully autonomous. No cloud required, no RPC assumptions, just cryptographic verification at the edge. Ethereum was never about trust me. It was always about don't trust, verify. Let's bring that back together. Now, if you want to dive deeper, everything is open. Here's the white paper, the spec, and the GitHub repo. Be so free and scan the QRs, review the docs, and try out Colibri yourself. We're asking for your feedback from wallet builders, from dev teams, and infra devs. We'd love to hear back from you, get your feedback, your experience, and see what interesting use cases you want to secure by real proofs. And also please join the conversation. Follow me, follow the official Colibri account, or if you prefer the spicy takes, just follow Colibri's ill-tempered cousin with an attitude, Colibro. By the way, if you want to learn more about last week's NPM attack, my friend and colleague Stefan, right here also in the yellow shirt up front, will talk about that attack on Friday, 11 a.m., also here on main stage. And he'll also talk about Trustless Ethereum also on Friday on main stage at 11:50. So please also join the conversation right then. Now, thank you for listening. We'd love to work with teams who want to make verifiability a first-class UX feature. Talk to us after the session or also somewhere around here. You'll see us with the yellow shirts. And let's build apps that don't rely on blind RPC trust anymore. Thank you.
ありがとうございました。